Hi, I'm Andy Cohen. I'm a third-generation professional photographer. I love my work. I think the word passion would best describe what I do. I have had a camera with me every day for most of my life, rain or shine, night or day. By the age of 5, I was hooked. I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And for my next birthday, I got a little brownie camera. I would take pictures of my friends and family, flowers and sunset and so on. And by my early 20s, I was doing freelance work for newspapers, fashion work, wedding, and selling my flower and landscape pictures as art. Now, probably my most exciting job was working as a photographer for Columbia University's art department. This included a vast collection of paintings, sculpture, and historical artifacts. I took pictures of tools fashioned by cavemen over 50,000 years ago, of a desk and chair used by George Washington, of pottery from ancient Greece, and using a microfilm camera recorded documents penned by Jefferson and Lincoln, of Hebrew manuscripts dating back almost 2,000 years, of letters written by Edgar Allan Poe, just to mention a few. Soon I owned my own studio and taught classes to young photographers about how beautiful this art of photography is, and photography is an art form. I've had my work displayed in numerous exhibitions and in magazines. Now, one of my earliest memories is that of my grandfather showing me in the darkroom how he printed photos. Seeing him place what seemed to be a blank piece of paper in the developer tray, and watching the image that my father had just taken of myself and my little brother slowly appear to be a beautiful black and white picture was magic. Now, photography has changed greatly through the years. Being able to work in a darkroom meant that you could control the quality of your pictures. Now, since then, cameras have developed, and today we have the most popular camera known as the digital. Now, digital cameras do not require all the effort and expenses of developing pictures. In today's presentation, we will teach you the professional tips that will help you control the quality of your pictures using your digital camera. Among the topics of our discussion will be a talk on how to hold your camera, how to recognize different forms of light in both day and night, bright and dark. We'll also talk about the range of equipment and accessories available to you. Now, while we tend to think of a good photo in terms of being a pretty picture based on light and color, the information we include in an image is of equal importance. We will discuss how to compose the picture. We will give you information that will help you have greater control over the images that you've always wanted to take, images that you thought only the professionals could take. Now, let's get our cameras and discover how simple this photography thing really is. Do you know that the camera predates photography by at least 1,000 years? The camera is the Latin word for room. These are originally large wooden boxes constructed for architectural purposes. The box was light-tight. There would be a pinhole at one side and white paper on the other side on which the image was projected. There were two drawbacks to this, however. One was that the artist blocked the light with his body as he tried to trace the lines of the image, and two, that the image was upside down and reversed. Despite the above drawbacks, the ancient scientists mechanics knew they had something unique at hand, and soon figured that by downsizing the cameras, they would have a more functional recording device. For centuries, it had been observed that sunlight produces a chemical reaction on certain surfaces. Around the 17th century, scientists had noticed that various surfaces would immediately darken when exposed to light. For instance, a leaf placed on a chemically treated surface and left in the sunlight would produce a negative but remarkable likeness of that leaf. But the image soon faded. The answer was to come up with a chemical mixture that would fix the image permanently. As this served no purpose at the time outside entertainment, this challenge was something that got low priority. At the turn of the 19th century, however, Josiah Wedgwood of Wedgwood China fame was using his camera to make sketches for his designs to be applied to his family's china products. He had the idea that there must be some way that the details cast upon the tracing paper could be made permanent, and began experimenting with chemicals based on the earlier research. He had some success initially, but the images still faded. Now, the one interesting thing about the history of invention is that if you are working on something, you can be sure there are others unknown to you as you are to them who will be working on the same challenge. Most of the famous inventors we know are only famous because they got to the patent office before anyone else. Now, from the year about 1799 to 1839, throughout Europe, North America, and South America, there were those who were trying to combine the ancient camera with photochemistry that would react to light and create an image, and then to extend that chemistry to keep the image from fading. In January of 1839, an Englishman by the name of Talbot and a Frenchman by the name of Daguerre announced and demonstrated to the world that which we know as photography. These inventors gave us this gift, which literally means to record with light. We are now at that point in phototechnology where the digital camera is about to make the film camera extinct. It is important to note, however, that we are still using light focused through a lens into a box onto a photoreceptive surface to make an image. All right, let's go out and look at the world of cameras and creating images. Okay, now, the big question, what's the difference between a film camera and a digital camera? Well, the prime difference is in how the picture is formed. As we know, when using film, the light reflected from the subject through a lens strikes the film, which is a material treated with a chemical solution that reacts to light in reverse tones. This we know as the negative. The picture is stored in the film canister till the roll is finished. Once the film is dropped off at the lab, the technician opens the canister in complete darkness and puts the film through a series of chemical processes that first bring up the negative image and then fix these images permanently. The negatives are now put into an enlarger, which projects the image onto a light-sensitive piece of paper where the image is formed, which in turn again is chemically treated to preserve the image, and now we have what is known as a photo. Now, with digital photography, the prime difference is that the process no longer uses chemicals, but rather a series of tiny receptors behind the lens which convert the light reflected from the subject to electronic bits of information known as pixels, which in turn are stored on what is known as a memory card. The information is then transferred into your computer and then created on a home printer or taken to your local camera store, supermarket, or pharmacy, where the photos are both printed and then stored on a disk, which replaces the negatives. This is the technological difference between film and digital cameras. Remember, digital photography in one big respect is the same as film. We are looking at a subject through a viewfinder, through a lens, using light to record that subject. But what makes digital photography so accessible to both the amateur and the professional is that the readout screen on even the most inexpensive cameras allows you to see right off whether or not the photo you just took is one you want to keep. For whatever reason, the image may be blurry, or you accidentally put your finger in front of the lens, you can now press the delete button and get rid of that wasted image. As a professional, and yes, this even happens to us, I've heard of nightmare stories of wrong exposures, of cameras accidentally opened and film fogged. In the past, as a professional, one of my considerations when billing a client for a job was how great my film expense would be. I haven't used film in 2 years, and now I pass these savings on to my clients. Now, when purchasing a digital camera, you may want to start with an inexpensive point and shoot, just in case photography is something in the end you'd like to leave to someone else. But consider this. With digital photography, you never have to buy film and pay for processing again, nor get stuck with images that are no use to you. In a given year, there are birthdays, holidays, graduations, and vacations. Consider that the few $100s saved on film and processing might go to a better and more professional camera. Now you can really focus in on some great pictures. Now, let's spend some time going over the camera parts. First and most importantly is the lens. One of the keys to understanding photography is to think of the lens as an extension of your eyes, for the mechanics are indeed based on how our eyes work. What regulates the amount of light entering our eyes is what's known as the iris. This corresponds to what is called the aperture in the lens. When we go out into the sunlight or enter a brightly lit room, the iris shrinks. It shrinks down to lessen the amount of light entering our eyes and not flood our senses. When we go into, let's say, a dimly lit restaurant or a theater, they open up wide to allow more light in so we can pick out the details. The camera lens works in the same way. The electronic sensors behind the lens, register the amount of light available for the picture, and the shutter between the lens and the receptors opens for a fraction of a second according to how wide the aperture is open. On the more professional cameras, one has the option for varying this function known as exposure. This allows, for example, of putting the background out of focus when shooting portraits or having everything sharp and in focus when shooting landscapes. For a more in-depth understanding of this, explanations will be offered in our DVD for the more advanced photographer. But for the beginners, rest easy, for there are simple controls and even the most inexpensive point-and-shoot cameras which will allow you some creativity when photographing. We'll go into this in the next chapter. You've noticed that we have the icon, the face, that's for the portrait. We have the mountain, that's for wide angle. We have the man running or the woman running, depending on the dial, that's to capture speed. Now you have the corresponding letters on the other side of the dial. AV stands for aperture value. That's the same as the portrait lens. What it's going to do, it's going to put the background out of focus. TV stands for time value. That's the equivalent of the icon of the person running. This is how you capture speed. Now we also have manual, but that's for the more advanced picture takers. That allows you to control the whole scene, but we'll go into that a little bit further in a future video. Now we also have automatic. And what automatic means is that the camera is going to average out the situation, and in most cases you're going to get a great picture. So if you're not sure, put the camera on automatic, take the picture, you've got the picture that you wanted, now play around a little bit. Go to aperture value, go to time value, see what the picture looks like, experiment. But one thing, this is something we all need to do, all cameras come with a manual. Consult the manual, read it again, and pretty soon it's going to become clear. Compare it to your pictures, you don't like the pictures, delete them, consult the manual, and pretty soon you're going to be showing others how to enjoy digital photography. Okay, let's discuss where the images are recorded. Now everybody recognizes this. This is a roll of film. We've been using film since the very beginning of photography. However, recently we have digital photography, which is the subject of this DVD. In some years, very soon, this is going to be a museum piece. Film will be extinct. What we have here now is what's called the memory card. This is where the image is recorded. Your family, your friends, your vacation, everything is stored on here. Now, when picking up a memory card, you must be very careful. Hold it at the edges. This will shift into your camera. There's a receptacle in your camera. Now, once you've taken your pictures, you can do one of two things. Some of us have computers. The camera can download the images into a computer, or if you only have a printer, this goes into your printer, and it will correspond to this and will be able to print your pictures. If you don't have a printer or you don't have a computer, you can take this memory card to your camera shop, your local pharmacy or supermarket, and they will produce the pictures for you from this. Now, you can either keep the images on here, or once you're finished and the images are on a disk, you can delete this image and you could use this basically forever. As a professional on my camera, I have kept this card in here for the past 2 years. I simply delete my images. I have not used film in 2 years. I have not used a darkroom in 2 years. This is so simple and so accessible to both the amateur and the professional. Soon, all that will be available to us. Get to know this. This is called the memory card. Now, one of the terms we hear when discussing a digital camera is the word megapixel. What is a pixel? A pixel is a dot. Now think of it in this terms. The more dots that you can get onto a given area, the sharper the picture is going to be. As a professional photographer, since my pictures may be blown up to the size of a poster, I want more megapixels. My cameras average between 6 to 8 megapixels. But as a beginner, if your pictures aren't going to be anywhere above 8 by 10, you really needn't concern yourself with that at first. Any picture from a 4 by 6 to an 8 by 10 will look beautiful. And if you lay one picture out next to each other, you cannot tell the difference between the picture taken by a professional or an amateur. Okay, now we're going to discuss one of the most important accessories to a camera that you can have, and that's called the flash. The flash lets you take picture in any situations. Night times, low light, you'll be able to get that picture. Now, almost all cameras have a flash built into them. As a professional, this camera will pop the lens up the flash up when I need it. Okay? I see a picture, something's happening, I pull it up, I focus, and the camera takes the picture with a flash. What the camera's going to do is blend your lighting, all the available lighting, with the flash and give you the correct exposure. Now, you may have the correct exposure, but there's one little drawback here, and that is the light from a flash is very flat and not always flattering. Do any of you out there like your driver's license? Well, that's one of the reasons you don't like it. It's not a very flattering light. Now, what's available to both the amateur and the professional is a flash that goes onto your camera. I'm going to show you two flashes. This is inexpensive. This is about $50, $60. This flash, however, is about $200. It puts out a higher output than this. It's a much more rugged flash. It could deal with cold weather, rain. You could actually drop it on the floor, and most likely it will continue working. Now, let me show you the main benefit of this light. Now, remember I told you the light coming out is forward, it's very flat. What I'm going to do here now is I'm doing something called bouncing the flash. What's going to happen here is the flash bounces off the ceiling, comes down, and fills in under the eyes, chin, and it shapes your subject. It's a much more flattering light. If you can get one of these flashes, I would suggest doing that. It will really improve your picture taking skills. Okay, one of the benefits to today's camera is that they're electronics. And electronic appliances and devices are much more precise than the old mechanical cameras. Now, one of the drawbacks to this is that with a mechanical camera, you can shoot in any weather. The environment, the humidity, the cold, the heat is not going to affect the camera. But one of these cameras, even the most professional camera, is subject to weather. What do I do when I'm shooting in the rain? And let me explain that there are some beautiful photographs that you can take in rain and snow. One of the things I do is I keep my camera under my coat. My body heat keeps the camera from draining. It's an average heat. I suggest when you're going out, have a jacket under which you can put your camera, or a bag or a big pocket in your jacket. Now, another thing to consider is when you're going out is how long is your battery going to last? For the non-professional cameras that take batteries that you can buy in CVS or the supermarket or the pharmacy, have a supply behind you that you can readily put in there. There are rechargeable batteries, however, and if you want to do something for the environment, get the rechargeable batteries. Don't keep throwing those batteries away because they really pollute the environment as much as aerosol and... Okay, now, as a professional, I carry 2 or 3 batteries with me at all times. This way I can constantly shoot. While one battery is charging, I'm shooting away. I've reached a point where I've drained this battery. I have the bride coming down the aisle if I'm shooting a wedding. So a couple of seconds later, I slap in a fresh battery and I'm ready to go. So always be aware of your battery. Have a charger with you at all times. This one sits here, it plugs in the wall. Here's the battery, here's my camera. This camera, however, you plug the camera into the wall itself and the camera charges, so you're limited here in that you have to wait till the camera is fully charged. All cameras will have some indication that your battery is draining and when you're charging, when it's fully charged. So once again, folks, be aware that your camera is electronic and subject to any number of influences. This will help you always get a good picture. Okay, now we're going to discuss taking care of your camera. Well, these cameras are amazingly rugged and can take a lot of abuse. You wouldn't believe how much abuse these cameras can take. Like any object with more than one working part, it's subject to some malfunction. It's subject to weather. Now, one of the things most cameras are subject to is other people. Don't ever leave your camera in an unlocked car. It's so inviting. I, as a professional, if I saw a camera in a car, I would have a hard time not going for it myself. Also, don't leave your camera in on the dashboard. The sunlight can heat your camera. That ruins the electronics. It can actually destroy your camera. Keep your camera in a place that has a constant temperature. It could be a little warm. It could be 80 degrees or so, but if it's constant, it's when it goes from 80 degrees to 30 degrees that you might have a little problem. Another thing in taking care of your camera, if you have it outside, is dust and dirt. These are very handy. They're inexpensive. Brush off the dust. You have a little bit of a blower. Keep it clean like that. This is very handy. Now, another thing that I see people doing, and this drives me crazy, is I'll see somebody breathe on their lens and then wipe it on their shirt. You are going to ruin the coating on your lens. You're going to ruin your lens. Please don't ever do that. Here's a little tip. Go over to your local optician. Ask them for a lens cloth for your eyeglasses and a little bit of lens cleaning fluid. They'll either give it to you as, for their own publicity, or they'll charge you a couple of dollars. It is a lifesaver for your camera. You also have the eyepiece, and you have the readout over here, and with most digital cameras today, you have this back here. Keep this clean, keep it protected. Another thing some people do is they take a little bit of cellophane and they put Scotch tape over there and keep it over there. It doesn't affect your picture-taking quality, and it protects. Now, I said before, I like going out and shooting in all sorts of weather. I will be shooting in rain, in snow, because I always want to get my picture. And there's some very interesting pictures you can get in rain and snow. And we're going to go over that later about when's the best time. So let's say pictures of flowers. Perfect in rainy weather, overcast weather. Now, they have out there housings for your camera which run in the hundreds of dollars. Sometimes they're more expensive than your actual camera. I'm going to show you a little trick. I have to find it first, but we do have it here, ladies and gentlemen. It is hidden. Here we go. This is what's known as a poor person's housing. For your camera, that is. It fits over your camera. You put the lens through the hole. Now, always make the hole a little bit smaller. It goes over here, and now I can shoot in the rain, I can shoot in the snow. It keeps the moisture and the dust off. Sometimes if you're shooting outside, the wind's blowing, there's dust, there's earth flying in there that gets into your lens and other camera parts, and it's sometimes even more expensive to repair than getting a new camera. So always take those precautions. As I said before, put a camera under your shirt. That keeps the temperature regulated. Same thing for flash. Now, another thing to be careful of, ladies and gentlemen, is that rain can short-circuit your flash. It can short-circuit your camera, and you can get a nasty shock. We want to be careful there. So always remember, treat your camera as if it's a living object. Take care of it, and it will get you all those pictures in almost any situation out there. Okay, one of the keys to taking good pictures is being aware of light. Now, early this morning, I shot a picture of the house behind me. The sunlight was coming from over there and lit the house from the front. It showed all the details. But now we have light coming from the side. Now, this is some of the more flattering lighting for people and/or houses, cars, or puppies. Now, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to take a picture of the house. Now, what I just did was, I have the shadows of the trees there, I have the trees above, you see the beautiful green, you see the blue of the sky. There's a lot of personality to this house now. If you're selling your house, this is a key. Same thing with shooting a car. Put it in the right light. Take it from different angles. Show personality. Everything, every picture should be approached as doing a portrait, whether it's a picture of a flower, a kid, a dog, a house, a car. Remember, do it as a portrait. See the personality that light creates. Nice flowers. I like the lighting on there. Okay, got an interesting angle. I'm going to come in a little bit closer. Still interesting picture. Okay, now I'm going to try something a little bit different. First reason, it's always interesting to take a picture from another angle. But you might have noticed we have this trailer in the background. That distracts from the image. I got the flowers, yeah, but you know, it's a boring image that throws the eye off. Now I'm coming over here, and what I'm doing is I'm coming down like this, and I have the green in the back of the flowers. Now I'm going to try a little variation on things. I'm going to try with my flash and the light. Now remember I said before about getting an on-camera flash? The camera will set up the exposure for you. I've put this on here, I've put it on automatic, the camera will compensate for the two different types of light. Okay, I did that. I'm going to come in a little bit closer. All right, now I'm going to try something else. When we're shooting in lower light, like shade, the camera shutter has to stay open a little bit longer. With the shutter open, sometimes the camera picks up just a little bit of shake. So let's avoid that. Here's a little tip. First of all, be aware of gravity. Okay, while these tripods are designed for tabletop work, they also function for outdoor. I am now using this to steady the camera. I push it back against myself. And there, I've compensated for camera shake. I've given two different lights. I've eliminated distracting background. And again, I've done it from different angles. So remember, if a picture is interesting to you, walk around, see it from as many angles as possible. Now, I also shot this early in the morning. Again, be aware of light. Light creates personality, no matter what camera you have, inexpensive or professional. Light creates personality. Let's address a common problem in taking a photograph: the right lighting, the right angle. Now this is a passable picture, but we're in shade here. The light's coming from the side. It's not so flattering to the house. The angle's off, the sky is washed out. It's just not an attractive picture. Now if we wait for the correct time to take the picture and take the time to compose the picture, we're going to get a much stronger image. Now we've addressed composition. What we've done is we step back a little bit. The green of the lawn leads up to the house. The sky is a deeper blue. There's more green to the trees. The color's in harmony. The house is in harmony. It's just a matter of being patient, walking around your image, and coming up with the correct composition. Okay, we're going to address the patience issue here. We saw some nice flowers. We took the picture, and it's okay, but we have a distracting trailer in the background. The foreground is there. What can we do to eliminate this? Ideally, we could ask them to move the trailer, but it wasn't my trailer. There was no one there to ask. So I decided to approach it by taking another angle of this. We've come in a bit closer. The flowers are a bit bigger, they're a bit more noticeable, but we still have some distracting images in the background. The lighting is a little bit better here. The lighting is a bit more even. This picture works in the sense that the green and the yellow complement each other, but it's still not that appealing a picture. All right, we've come even closer on this now. In coming closer, we've eliminated the trailer a little bit, but it's still distracting. Now the colors are harmonizing. That's making it stronger. We're getting something that's starting to work here. Now here's another common problem. We've come in too close, and the foreground is out of focus. The background is in focus a little bit, but we're still dealing with the angle of the trailer and the lighting. We need to work at this a bit more. The picture is getting much stronger now. The lighting is a little bit better. The colors are really beginning to harmonize, but we have the distracting top there. So again, now we have to work at the angle a little bit. All right, here's a common error even professionals make. I didn't change the setting on this. I came from a different angle and now the exposure is completely off. But this is a digital camera and we could always delete this image. Okay, now our patience has paid off. We've got a strong image here. We've got the colors harmonizing, the light is nice, and the composition is very strong. We've eliminated all challenging details in the background. The focus works. This is an image that you could be proud of. Okay, now we've tried something a little bit different. We're working with more of a horizontal angle here. It's working again. The colors are nice, but now we have the distracting detail of the earth to the lower right-hand side and the building at the top of the picture. Okay, we've changed our angle here. We tried something a little bit different. Instead of letting the background be a distraction, we've begun to work with it a little bit. We have the flowers off-center to the left, and we see a trail leading up behind the flowers, and there's something now that it begins to work a little bit. We play with the angle, and now we tried a different angle on the angle. The color's a little bit off here, though. We're working with the shade, so we've begun to lose our harmonious colors. All right, we began to get experimental here. We tried to use our flash, and you know what? It just doesn't work. The colors in the front are washed out, the background's a little bit too dark. Don't use your flash in this case. We've adjusted the flash a little bit here. The colors are a little bit less washed out. The background, even though it presents a little bit of a challenge in the composition, provides an interesting shape back there. It works a little bit. Okay, here we finally have the right light. The yellow pops out, there's detail in the leaves, it's very strong. In fact, the color and the lighting works so well on this that even though we have the distracting background, it's a picture that jumps out at you and it overcomes that challenge of the bad background. This is the picture. We've walked around, we've tried different angles, we've stood up, we've lain on the ground, we've tried the flash. What we've done here now is we've come in very close. We've got the right light, we've got the right composition, the flower dominates the image, you can see the tulip. This is a very strong image. The background is dark enough, it's out of focus, it brings in and really snaps the foreground. This is what attracts the eye. This is a picture you could send to a greeting card company. Okay, we're out of the studio right now. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, how can I take pictures as well as somebody with a professional camera and professional lights? Well, let me show you a little secret. See all this? This is called light. You have it, I have it, the person on the street, everybody has light available to them. Now, one of the things that are most fun to take are pictures of your pets or your kids. Now, here's a little tip. You can take a picture standing up here, like this, and it's basically, all right, you got a picture of the dogs, big deal. But let's get down at their level. This is great with kids too. If you don't mind getting dirty, folks, get on down, get to their level. Hey kids. Now, having cooperative subjects help too, but that's girls, boys. Come on, guys. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Always praise them. Good. Just like here. You want to see the picture? There you go. Communicate with your subjects. Okay. Come here. Come here, babies. Come on. Good. Good. Okay. Now I'm going to get down even lower on the floor. And let's get their real personalities. All right? Yeah, there we go. Good. Okay, could you step back a little bit, honey? Okay, that's it. Lick the lens. All right, guys. Okay. All right, let's step back a little bit. Okay, come on. There we go. And you, come on. Come on. There we go. Okay, let your subject see you're interested. Here, want to see your picture? Yeah, that's you. You too. See? I may be joking here, but communicating with the kids or the dogs or any subject is always a good step to connecting with your subject. It makes them feel there's a connection. Now, another thing about holding your cameras. You're on the set, baby. See, I'm putting the camera down here. There we go. Hey, come on. Come on. Come on, baby. There we go. Okay? Okay. Now here. There we go. Now I have a lovely assistant. She's going to... Hello, lovely assistant. If you could grab one of the puppies, or both puppies. Okay. Now we're getting a little bit more formal, folks. Okay. Would you pick the puppy up? Okay. It just doesn't matter. There we go. There we go. Hey, baby. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. Now let's get the other... There we go. There we go. Okay, they get into it. Okay, now we're getting a performance. See, folks, one of the things you need to consider when being a photographer is patience. Sometimes it takes time. You're not going to go out there and get that picture right off. Wait, look for it to happen, and then take your pictures. Once again, I stress patience. Beautiful. Girls. Okay. Okay, let's discuss a photographic issue. What makes a good picture of a flower is not what makes a good picture of a dog or a child. Dogs and kids are always moving around. You'll lose a picture sometimes by trying to pose. It just doesn't work. Now, this picture of the dog, the lines of the boards come together. The dog is in the center. We've got a little bit of motion, but dogs are in motion all the time. This picture is a strong picture of a dog. Remember we were discussing light? Well, once again, the aesthetic for taking a picture of an animal in motion is a little bit different. We've got a tiny bit of shade. The picture's a tiny bit underexposed, but that really doesn't matter here. What we're doing is we're capturing a picture of a dog's motion, of a dog's personality. Here's the dog in motion again. We've got some sneakers in the background, but you know what? It doesn't really bother. We've got the lines there. In fact, in some way, the sneakers even add to the picture. All right, another portrait of the puppy. It works. She stopped moving for a little bit. Again, we like the angle of the boards. The lighting's a little bit off again, but again, that's not the criteria for this picture. It's an interesting picture, but you know what? Let's change the angle. Remember we approached angles in the other picture? Let's approach it again here. Let's get down a little bit to the dog's level. All right, we'll come down a little bit lower here. And remember we were discussing the problem of the distracting background in the other pictures? Well, you know what? In this case, the distracting background has begun to work a little bit. It brings your eye over to the side of the picture. We're getting more of the personality of the dogs. We're getting something here that works a little bit better, but let's get even lower. The distracting background here is beginning to work a little bit. Notice how the legs of the chair echo the legs of the dog. Notice how the white of the chair begins to echo the white of the dog, and the red really picks up there. So remember, every now and then what was an obstacle in one case won't always be an obstacle in another case. We're getting lower. Let's get all the way down to the dog's level. Now here's an interesting example of composition. The dogs are not acting. They're doing what dogs always do. One is going in one direction, another's going in another direction. We've brought in somebody from the house. The red of her shirt and the blue of the pants are picking the picture up a little bit. And even though we're not happy with the lighting, the colors compensate for that. We're down even lower now, and we've begun to include the distracting backgrounds. We've got the chairs back there. The chairs echo the white of the white dog. And now we've got the arm of the cameraman filming this. This lends to a little bit of humor in there. Are the dogs posing for the camera? All right. Now we've taken the distracting background to its limit. We've put people in the background. They give a sense of environment. They give a sense of place and time. The dogs are moving forward, and we've got people actually surrounding them. There's the man to the side filming it. There's somebody standing in the background between the two dogs, and that seems to emphasize the dogs coming forward to us. And there's somebody standing off to the left side. They've actually begun to frame the dogs and emphasize them. And again, we're getting lower down to the ground. It's becoming a much more interesting image. We're looking at this picture from the angle of the other dog. Maybe the other dog took this picture. Now, once again, we have distracting backgrounds, but you know what? It kind of works. And the dog is a little bit out of focus, but it works too. They're in motion, they're coming in close, they're never sitting still. There's something very strong about this image, including the foot to the side. Again, it lends a certain sense of environment, and you could always crop the picture out later on. All right, this is where it all comes together. The dog is actually stopping and staring at the camera, and there's a certain element of humor here because this tiny dog looks a little bit like an elephant. See the way the ears are sticking out? Have you ever seen an elephant at the zoo or in a magazine? What's also working here is the sky, the blue of the sky, the green of the leaves. As in the other picture with the flowers, with the yellow and the green, we have the blue and the green working here. We have the repeating shape of the fence, and the dog is offset to the side. This is a picture. This is a wonderful picture. A little bit of humor, a little bit of emotion, composition, it all works. All right, we're taking a slightly different approach here. What we've done is we've asked our subject to wear a red shirt and blue jeans, and this kicks the picture up a little bit. This again compensates for poor lighting. Now the angle is nice, the dog's looking at the picture. She's a little bit out of focus, but you can see there's a real connection with her and the dog. This is another picture that works. Okay, the important thing about this picture is the emotion in the picture. The love for this girl and her dog, how the dog is leaning back onto her, and even the way the dog is standing her on the slight angle across her. Again, the red is kicking it up a little bit, the blue jeans are kicking up a little bit. We've learned how to compensate, how we deal with shade and disconcerting background. You see the background a little bit out of focus and a little bit too bright, but the jeans and the red compensate for that. Now what we've done here a little bit is we've relied on the dog to give us an interesting picture. It looks like a circus dog. It's standing on its hind legs. It's pointing at the dog in her arms. Again, we've got a little bit of out of focus, the background a little blurry and a little bit shiny, but we've used the color to compensate, and we've been patient, and we got the dog to stand up and look a little bit like a little kid. Here we go again. I'm beginning to think that the dog is actually acting here. The way the dog's paws on the girl's arm, the way it's touching the other dog. There's a connection between three beings here. There's the girl, there's the beige-colored dog, and the little white-colored dog. There's something happening here. It draws your attention, even though we're a little bit out of focus, even though, again, we've got a little bit of shade, and even though, again, the background is washed out, the picture still jumps out. We're going to call this picture Tag You're It. We've caught the motion, how the dog is leaping onto the back of the other dog. You can actually see the features on the white dog. It looks a little bit like she's afraid. And we even got the person in the background there. But see how the angle of the person leads down to the two dogs? It draws our eye to the center there. We've got a little bit of a disconcerting background there, but you know what? The little colors there, the green of the trees, the blue, the lines of the window panes, they echo the other lines there of the boards. It's a picture, it's not perfect, but it's a fascinating image nevertheless. Okay, another tip about photographing people, especially kids. When you put the camera up like this in front of you, they're not seeing your face. There's a certain impersonality there, especially with kids. This is what I'm going to do. Watch this. Can I have your name again?
Sophia.
Could I shake your hand again, Sophia? You know you have beautiful eyes, and you have the name of my favorite actress, Sophia Loren. Now, what I'm doing here again is I'm coming down at her level. I'm looking at her in the eye. Okay, Sophia, look at those beautiful eyes. Okay, now I took a picture in the shade. Let's do this. I had to get the picture. Got a picture of this beautiful young lady, but Sophia, can we take a little stroll? Okay, here's another tip. This young lady has beautiful eyes. We've got beautiful light right now, but unfortunately, there in her face, she's going to squint. So this is what I'm going to do. We have her against a nice backdrop. I'm going to walk over like this. I'm going to get down to her level, once again, and there we go, Sophia. And she's posing for us, too. Okay, Sophia, let's turn to me. There we go. Is the sun still in your eyes? Now, there we go. Good, beautiful. Good. Oh, she's posing. We got an actress here. Okay. Sophia, let's take another walk. Okay, again, another example of working with the right light. The light was very glaring over there, very harsh on even an adult and a professional subject. We have this very cooperative and beautiful young lady, and what I did right now was I walked over with these bushes over here. The sunlight is coming through here and filtering the image. Now I get the light on her eyes. That's it. Sophie, that's it. You want it? That's it. Beautiful. Okay, again, another example of working with the right light. The light was very glaring over there, very harsh on even an adult and a professional subject. We have this very cooperative and beautiful young lady, and what I did right now was I walked over with these bushes over here. The sunlight is coming through here and filtering the image. Now I get the light on her eyes. That's it. Sophie, that's it. You want it? That's it. Beautiful. That's good. That's beautiful. You want to look over there? Great. Okay. Now we have a very flattering light. It's not harsh. It picks up all her features, especially her blue eyes. You want to wave again? You want to wave to your daddy? Okay, another thing. Not every great picture is with the subject looking at you. Having the subject looking off creates a more candid shot. It's different. It's from another angle. Again, take a variety of pictures. Now, I could take pictures of her all day long. I'm going to take maybe one or two more pictures. Sophie, can you jump in the air? Can you jump in the air for me? Okay, on the count of three. One, jump all the way up, touch the sky. Beautiful. Okay. Young lady, thank you. Always show respect for your subjects. Always connect with them, even when you're finished shooting, because this way they'll shoot again tomorrow. Thank you, Sophia. Okay, what we have here again is the lighting problem. What's happening here is the kid's in shade. We have a very washed out background. But we took this picture simply because we want to get the kid into the mode of having her picture taken. It's a nice picture, but it's just too limited. All right, the lighting is a little bit better, but you know what's happening? The light is coming into little girl's eyes. The problem here is we don't want to make her uncomfortable. We want to keep a kid as comfortable as possible and keep them as cooperative as possible. It's not a bad picture, but let's see what else we can get. All right, we've kept her cooperation. She's still working with the picture. She's beginning to move around a little bit, her hands over her head. We got a little motion. It's an interesting picture. We have a disconcerting background due to the light, but also the lines of the boards in the background echo her hand. So it's beginning to come together. We're keeping the kid's cooperation. We're working with her. We're basically letting her do what she wants. Now we're working at this a little bit more. You see the way her arm is going around her head? We've got the features on the side, so we've begun to bring out a little bit more of her face. It needs a little bit, but it's getting stronger. We've kept her cooperation. What we've done here now, we've changed our position. Remember the other pictures where we changed our position to work with our limits? What we have now here is something interesting in the background. The green offsets the pink of her shirt and her pants and a little red beret in her hair. We've got a little problem with the shade, but we've got some nice light on her eyes there. She's relaxed. Her hands are on her knee. And we've got an interesting angle there leading from the hands up to the side of the face. We've also gone down to her level. We've tried something a little bit different here. We're down on the ground again. The background is a little dark, but she turned away from the picture and now she's completely not posing. There's something interesting about her looking off. Again, we have a little bit of problem with the shade, but you notice how the light is coming in on her eyes, and that more than compensates for making an interesting picture. Okay, we're still dealing with the shade problem, but what we've done is we've come completely down to her level. She's looking directly into the eye of the camera, and this is how you want to connect with children. Children are always looking up and we're looking down at them. Sitting down, she's looking at us. We're on equal footing with this child, and she's on an equal footing with us. We've still got a problem with the light, but the eyes are looking directly in the camera. So again, sometimes a picture can be distracting for certain reasons, but if you have the right elements in the picture, like the eyes, the level, it's going to more than compensate. Now, we've got a little bit of shading problem here. Notice to her right side how dark it is, and then how the background moves to a little bit being light, so we have the light and shade. But what we've done here is we've worked with a really interesting angle. She's offset to the left, and her eyes move to the right. Her eyes are also in line with the pavement behind, which is a little bit lighter. The picture works because she's looking out to the side, she's not paying attention to us, and even though we have a little problem with the lighting, we have a strong image. Why does this picture work? Well, it works because we're down on the child's level. The child is looking at us. The shading has emphasized the blue of her eyes, but you may notice she's set to the left. Well, here's a subtle psychological reason why this works. You know, when we open a book, we read left to right. Now, what we've done here is we've included our little on-camera flash. Now, it opens up the details on the face a little bit, it brings out the grass a little bit, and in some ways, it's a much clearer picture, but it loses the drama that's in the other picture. The shading in the previous picture emphasizes her eyes a little bit more. There's something about this picture that's just a little bit too common. Remember how we've discussed patience and waiting for a picture, waiting for the right elements to come into place? This is what happened in this picture. We asked the child to wave to the camera, and at that point the sun broke through the trees and began to eliminate a little bit of the shade. It picks up the pink of her clothing, it picks up the blue of her eyes, how red her lips are, the little red beret in her hair, and we've got a perfect exposure on the green of the grass in the background. We also came down even lower on the picture and eliminated the distracting background above her head in the earlier pictures. What we've done here is tried a different approach. We've included more image in the picture. We've worked more with the environment. We've begun to include the lawn behind her. We're working a little bit with the shade again, and there's something very dramatic about this picture. She's off to the left a little bit, but she's looking to the right. Our eyes are drawn in both directions, but we keep coming back to the child. And there's something very beautiful about the child's profile, especially her eyes, how they're emphasized by putting the sidewalk just behind her there. It picks up the light on the sidewalk, and you can see it just in her eyes. This is what children, like animals, like to do. They like to run around. We asked the little girl to jump up in the air, and you notice how we set the picture vertically, how the trees in the background going up and down? Well, that emphasizes and echoes the jump of the child. She's there in the center. We've got a little bit of the lighting problem again, but there's enough light coming in on the pink of her pants and a little bit on her face to kick up the images a little bit. What we've done here is the child had thought we were stopped shooting, and she had gone off to play. What the photographer did was walk up to the top of the porch and just start taking pictures of the kid in motion and how she is. See how it leads off to the side, how she's running across the circle? When you're taking pictures, look for interesting objects. Things that may be distracting in one picture can emphasize another picture and really make it work. What we've done here is we've waited for the child to move a little bit. She started at the right side and now she's moving to the left. Sometimes what you might want to do when you're taking pictures is to actually include two pictures when you later frame them. We have the child moving from the right to the left, and now she's moving off into the left. She's jumped over 3 of those circles. All right, once again we're working with light here. The lighting is a little bit off. The pink is a little bit washed out. The background is a little washed out there too, but not so much that it would disconcert us from the entire image. What we're emphasizing here is the motion of the child. Remember how we were working with the motion of the puppies before? How sometimes the key element can be motion, how it could be composition. What we've done here is work with the motion. We've got her leaping from one circle to the next. What we did here was just ask the kid to go over to the water and look at it and tell us what she saw in there. She's not aware she's being photographed, or even if she is, she's not paying much attention to it. She's holding her cup. It's a toy that children have. She's holding something that means something to her. See how the pink and the white right now and the red of a beret are kicking up from the grass? Even though we have a little bit of shade here, this time it's working. She's looking over to the left side of the picture, and we see the water in there. We wonder what she's looking at. It's got her attention. Okay, once again, we're discussing light and personality, how to emphasize things, how to really bring things out and make them handsome, beautiful, sellable. Now, I'm going to turn around. We've got the car here. I'm coming down. Okay, we know what the car is. It's a Ford, all right? But I've got the cone there. I've got the trailer over there. I've got other things in the background. I've got these cars here. It distracts. This car looks like any other car. Let's do something. Let's bring it into the light, and let's see the difference. Okay, we got a little bit different light. We got a little bit different background. Remember before when I got down with the kids and the puppy? Well, I'm going to get the person out of the car by coming down at this angle. I'm going to walk around over here a little bit. Come on down. Okay. Let's get the personality. Again, it's a car. It represents us. Okay. We got it. We've just sold your car. Let's review a certain theme here, and that's the theme of personality. Everything has a personality. Cars, dogs, people, obviously, where you live, but cars have personalities too. So here's an example of what not to do. We've taken an angle where we're standing above it. Remember how we moved our angle with the kids and the flowers before? We've got the distracting cone in the background. It's washed out. There's a trailer to the side. There's another car to the side. There's nothing about this car that stands out. Why would anyone want to buy this car? We've worked on the angle a little bit here. We've come down a little bit lower. We've eliminated one of the cars to the side. We've turned it slightly, and we're beginning to get a little bit more of the car's lines, but it's still not working. Well, what we can do here is come down a little bit lower again, try a slightly different angle. What we've done is we've stepped back a little bit. We've have the picture more horizontal. This increases the lines of the car. Now, the shade which was giving us trouble before, we've turned to our advantage. What it's done is it's picked up the slight blue tones of the pavement, which emphasizes the color of the car. The green is a little bit darker, and it kicks it up a little bit. We've got the angle here, but we're still dealing with a washout background, and we still have those disconcerting objects in the background. Let's work a little further. Now we're showing the personality of the car. We've stood up a little bit, but we've included the environment behind it. We have the house, we've got the brick to the side, we're showing a certain neighborhood, and also if you notice to the left we have the American flag. Now that little bit of color kicks it up a little bit. We've got a washed out sky, the background's a little bit washed out, but the flag is an icon that always catches our attention, and it's flapping towards the car. We've got the lines there, it's beginning to work. Let's take it a bit further. All right, we've come exactly down on the ground. We're looking at it pretty much at eye level. The flag is flapping in the background there. It's pointed to the length of the car. Now another thing we did was we turned the wheels a little bit. This gives a sense of motion. It's turning towards us. There are beautiful lines to the car. It's still a little bit washed out, but we're getting more personality here. It's coming together now. What we've done is we've come up a little bit closer. We've got the background. We've begun to work with the light a little bit. It isn't as washed out as much. We've got some interesting pinks in there too. We've got the flag flapping. And again, it's pointing towards the car. What we've done also is that we've included a little bit more of the house. And this almost gives a sense of motion. We have the flag pointing to the car moving, and then the brick gives a sense of moving off to the left. Okay, we've heard the phrase, every picture tells a story. Let me show you something. See this basketball net? See the chains up there, how the light's hitting it and such? It picks up the rust, it picks up the backboard. That makes an interesting picture in itself. Got him. We're going to take a slightly different approach here. We've been thinking in terms of picture. We're going to do now something where we're going to do a series of pictures and tell a little story. Now we have this basketball net, we've got nice lighting, nice composition, we've got the blue of the sky in the background, we've picked up the green, the rust of the net stands out against the green and the blue, we've got an interesting shape of the backboard. But what do people do with basketball nets? They play basketball. Now we worked at this a little bit. We noticed that the ball is a little bit overexposed, the backboard's a little bit overexposed because we tried a slightly different angle. But that's not the important thing about the picture. The important thing about the picture is the story of a basketball game. We've got the ball going into the net. There's a little story here. Now notice, even though it's a little bit washed out, is to the side. This is what we had to work with. We're moving around here. We're not exactly setting up a picture here. We're telling a story. You work with what you have, you try different angles, you exercise patience, and you get your picture, and in this case, pictures. Okay, and here's a young model playing basketball. She's wearing the red again. Remember we discussed about having your subjects wear interesting colors to pick things out? See how it echoes the flowers off to the left? How we've got motion moving over to the left. We've worked with the space. We've stood back. She's got the ball. She's bouncing. And even though the sky is a little bit washed out, it doesn't really matter because you notice how it echoes the foreground of the pavement. It emphasizes, again, the red of her shirt and the yellow of the ball. And it's telling a story. She's moving across now. She's dribbling the ball. We've got a really nice angle of the ball coming up halfway. See how our hand is pointing to the ball. See how the yellow emphasizes her shirt. See the green over to the left side. And once again, the house and the sky and the pavement, even though they're washed out, they're harmonious colors. Okay, now the ball isn't as sharp as in the other one, but if you ever watched a real game, the ball isn't even in focus as you're there live. She's got the ball bouncing, her legs to the back. She's moving closer to the basket. Now we know she makes it, but if you hadn't seen the other pictures, would you know? All right, she's setting up for the shot. We've got our distracting background. We've got a little trailer there. Remember the trailer from the other picture? But it really doesn't matter here. A little bit of something which is an accident. The circle of the wheel emphasizes the circle of the ball, and it creates a triangle. Look at the ball, bring your eye up to the basket, bring it down to the wheel, and bring it back to the girl throwing the ball. We've got an interesting picture here. All right, she shoots. We've got even though it's washed out in the back, it's still something happening here. The emphasis is a story. It's not a perfect picture. Now we have the end of the story. The young lady has shot the ball. It's coming into the basket. It's about to drop through the basket. Now we have the blue of the sky and we have the trailer even in the bottom. Somehow that works for the picture too because it creates an angle looking up to the basket. Now we know that the ball goes through, but somehow by the ball suspended up there, we've created this story. We've created almost a little bit of a movie. If you run these pictures fast, it's like watching a very quick movie. Now we're going to take a classic shot, window light. Artists have been using this sort of light since the beginning of painting, since the beginning of art. Now one thing, the lighting is going to be a little low in here because we don't want to lose the drama of this light. So the people filming this video are a little bit limited, so bear with them. Now, she's looking out, look out the window. Okay, I'm coming in very close. All right. Now, what I've done is I've emphasized her face. Her hair is caught in the light. This is almost like having studio lights, but you have window light. Everybody has window light. Once again, I can't say it enough, light creates personality. Be aware of light. Look at the light around you. Okay. Thank you for your patience, young lady. What we're doing here is we're working with window light. We've got the pink of the shades there, which kind of pick up the color of her blouse. Now, it's an interesting picture. She's got a nice pose, but it's a little washed out. She's a little bit out of focus, and we can do a little bit better. What we've done now is we've changed the angle a little bit. What's happening now is the shades in the background are not as washed out. Things are going into shadow, and even though shadow can be a little bit disconcerting at times, it emphasizes the young woman's features. We especially kick up her eyes a little bit. We pick up the highlights of her hair. And even though the window is a little bit washed out, she's looking out. There's a story being told here. There's something that this picture would work any place in the world. All right, a slight variation on the other picture. What we've done is we've eliminated the window totally. We have the curtain behind her. The curtain picks up the red of her blouse. It picks up the highlights of her hair. And notice her hand, how it's pointing up, how it's touching the curtain. It also points to her face a little bit. We've got the eyes, her nose moves down to the hand. We've got an interesting picture here. It works. Let's see what variations we can get on a picture that works in another way. In this picture, what we've done, we've included the viewer in the picture. She's turning to somebody. It could be her friend, her boyfriend, her parents. She's just looking back at the camera. She's aware of the camera, but the camera is the eye of the viewer. There's a connection that you have with the individual in this picture, and a sense that she's connecting with you. There's something universal about this. Now, we've included the window to the side in this, and how this works is there's a gradation of light. We have the almost washed out of the window. We move to a slightly darker of the orange, and then we move back to the light again, and then we move into the shade. There's a whole variety of lighting here. We've included a horizontal format, and everything moves off into the darkness to the side. We go from the light to the subject to the darkness. The whole picture works. Same picture, except she's looking off. And there's something very sculptural about the shape of her face. Again, we have the light of the window, the orange of the curtain, but the way her face is picked up and how we pick up her eyes and her lips, and then it moves off into the darkness to the side with just a little bit of detail there. Now this is where photography becomes subjective. This picture works, and so does the other picture work. In the end, it's going to come down to what works for you, the photographer. Okay, this is what cameras were designed for. This is what photography is all about. Parties, people are interacting, they're showing themselves, they're not thinking about. This is the height of human drama. Now, let me show you how not to take a picture. Hey everybody, look at me. Say cheese, all right. Okay, yeah, that's it, keep smiling. Okay, I want everybody to pose, that's it, beautiful. Okay, now let's get some real pictures. I'm going to be taking candid pictures. They're not going to be looking at me. They're going to be in conversation. They're going to be acting with each other. They're going to be having a good time. And this is where we capture personality. Okay, I am mixing flash and I am mixing outdoor light. I'm walking around. I'm capturing interesting angles. Okay. Now we've captured the essence of the party. People are themselves. Once again, we've got outdoor light, we've got indoor light, and we've got candid pictures. This is what it's all about, folks. We're going to continue on with thought in a picture. Now, what I've done in this picture, I've asked the people to look at me and pose for the picture. There's a nice composition here, the table in the center. We've got the pictures behind them. We've got the far window there. Actually added somebody to bring his guitar. It makes a little bit of an interesting prop. It's a good picture. But they're looking at you or me, and what happened here is the party has stopped. This works, but let's see what happens if people aren't paying attention to the camera. Now we have the choice. What we've done here is we've let the people continue. We're having a party. They're involved in their conversations. They're not aware that somebody is looking here. This is more of the environment of a party. There's conversation, people communicating with each other, connecting with each other. On either end of the picture, we have a dog at either side. The woman holding the white dog is looking across. It brings us back and forth. Again, we have the composition of the table and the color here. Color works a lot here too. Notice the gold of the pictures, the orange of the shade over the window, his guitar strap, the young lady in the red. And even though you don't see the woman's face to the side, you catch her profile. You know she's in conversation. You know something's happening here. So we don't need to look at her. We know that she's talking, she's alive, she's experiencing this party, and people are connecting with each other. This captures much more of a party than people looking at the camera. All right, now, even though this picture is slightly blurred, people are in motion. Parties are in motion. People are moving around, they're having a good time. Like with the puppies in the earlier picture, we've let the motion work here now. We've come down also slightly. We're looking more at eye level. The picture's not perfect, but it's still a strong image. Okay, you remember I've discussed about being aware of your environment and look for some interesting objects and interesting angles? Well, while we were shooting this, I noticed the people in the mirror, and I thought, you know what, let's take a completely different approach to this. Now we have the flowers obscuring the people in the front. It's slightly a bit out of focus, but you know what? It's an interesting angle. It tells a slight story. Now these people are no longer aware of anybody taking a picture. It's not a perfect picture, but it's an interesting variation. And the more you vary your pictures, the more interesting pictures you're going to get. We also work with a vertical angle here. You're aware that it's a mirror, and we didn't try to avoid that. What we've done here is we've used the frame of the mirror frame to create another frame. Now you notice the two frames over the subject's head. We have a series of frames here. We have repeating shape. Even though you're not aware of it at first, there's a little bit of a story here. There's repetition of shapes. And again, it's slightly out of focus, but we've been careful. We've come down onto the level. We've come up closer to the mirror. We've got the dog in the center, and she comes between the two pictures, or over your subject's head. We have a little bit of obscuring in front with the flowers and the pillows, but again, we're trying for something different here. Work for difference, look for difference. Now we're going to experiment again here. What we've done now is we've also kicked in a little bit of flash. We've thrown our light up to the ceiling, and we've washed out our picture a little bit. We still have the framing. It's not as strong as the other two pictures, but it still works. We've considered composition. The pictures go up and down. The picture's a little washed out on the gentleman's forehead. The young lady is slightly distorted. The dog is slightly distorted, but it still works. Again, what we were doing was experiment. We have digital cameras. If the picture doesn't work for you, you're not going to waste any money by eliminating the picture. Okay, what we're going to be doing here is I noticed the beautiful lines of these banisters. They create a wonderful frame around the subject. They lead the eye up and down. We're going to capture the architecture of this house and our subject. Okay, I'm kneeling down. I'm taking this angle. Okay. All right. Now if you begin to step down, that's it. Just, okay. Let's try this again. Come back up a little bit. Always be polite with your subjects. Point your toe down as you're coming down. Beautiful. That's it. Okay, let's try something a little different. Let's work with an unusual angle. I pointed out before the graphics of the banister, how they draw the eye on, how there's a certain beautiful mathematics to this. But I'm going to come down from a lower level. I'm going to sit on the ground, looking up and capture the beauty of the house, of her length, coming down the steps. And even though this is posed, it's not going to look posed. Okay, young lady. Okay, I want you fixing your earring. Okay? What I want you to do now is take a step, go to the top of the steps, go back up to the top of the steps. That's beautiful. Okay, always compliment your subject. And now, start walking down the steps, fixing your earring. As you go, you're anticipating what's going to happen today. You're going to meet somebody. You got a job interview. Okay, walk to me. Walk down to me. That's beautiful. Thank you. Okay. We've got an interesting angle. We have a great subject. We have the environment of the house. There are any number of elements in this picture which makes it a really interesting picture. Now, one of the thoughts in taking pictures of people is the picture too posed? Well, here's a thought. Even though a person may not be looking at the camera, if they're aware there's a camera, the picture is posed. So let's work at posing. What we've done here is we have an interesting house. We have this stairway, we have the steps moving to the side, we have a high ceiling. It's an interesting house, interesting colors, but we have too much light coming in. We have above light, we have light coming through the window. The subject is a little stiff. Let's work on this a little bit, keeping posing in mind. What we're doing here now is we're building a picture. We have the subject working with posing a little bit. We've cut down on the light. We're working with the features of the banister. You're leading down into the viewer's picture. The young lady is about to step down the steps, but it's still not quite there. Let's build it a little bit more. What we're doing here now is we're taking a different subject matter. We had the young lady there, but we weren't getting exactly what we wanted, so we went to another model. Now we're telling a little story here. The woman is walking down the steps. I asked her to fix her earring. She could be going out on a job interview. She could be going out on a date. She's aware of her appearance. What we've done here also is we're working with the house. We've got the banister on either side, and it's leading up to the woman coming down the steps. And even though we have a distracting background, it somehow emphasizes our subject. We've got a light over to her right, and normally that might be distracting, but it's also emphasizing her face a little bit. The one problem is she's wearing a white jacket, and that's becoming washed out against all the other lights. Okay, folks, first of all, I want to thank you for buying our video and watching it. I hope my love of photography inspired you and gave you some insights. I want you to remember that every picture I took today was taken on a digital camera. Remember, digital photography is the photography of the future. Pretty soon, as I said, film cameras are going to be museum pieces. So go out there, get yourself a digital camera. Remember, you can delete those pictures. You can shoot all day long and keep the pictures you want. So remember, one more time, angle, light quality, and see the personality in every picture you're taking. You're going to be very happy you bought this video. You're going to thank us. Once again, I thank you for watching our video.